everyone, and welcome to the Jeff Bullis Show. Today I have with me Ledge. Hi, Ledge.
Nice to be here, Jeff.
He's sometimes known as David. His last name's
Sometimes.
Ledgerwood. So in Australia, we have a game called cricket, and we do sledging, which is basically giving the team a hard time on the other side. But we're talking about ledge, not sledging, and
It's actually pretty similar.
now Ledge has got an interesting history. He originally was a coder and got into sales and worked for companies basically trying to help them close deals. And he realized that their systems were so crap that he decided that he could do it better. So he decided to start his own company called Ad10. And Ad10 is all about making more money for their clients in B2B services sales. And welcome to the show, Ledge.
It is so cool to be here with you. It's coffee time for you. It's happy hour for me. So, this
Yep.
was a worldwide B2B relationship building right now.
Exactly. And we're doing the old Zoom here, which is fabulous. I'm almost an expert in Zoom now. I know how to turn it on. I know how to put gallery view on, and we've been working on the mics for the last 12 months, getting them right. We had a mic just like yours. I changed that recently, and it's always a challenge, isn't it, for a podcast to get the sound just right without having it in a.
It's very hard. The software changes everything, and I've had trouble with the lighting. I finally figured that out. Although I feel like I'm getting a sunburn I've got these two LED panels that are, burning my eyes out all day. But it looks nice on video. It's like you have to be vain enough to invest, in that nice shiny look. So
Yeah, that's right. Well, I haven't had any makeup put on my shiny forehead this morning, but the the makeup artist had a
I
holiday.
understand. You got before the makeup artist came in. So
That's right. So, welcome to the show, Ledge, and I look forward to finding more about what you do. So, you were a coder,
it
right?
was.
So, what got you into coding before we get into the real interesting stuff about making more money for people?
I still want to be a coder. The funny thing, I love it. I'm trying to get my kids to be coders. I am absolutely fascinated by algorithms, and I just think it's amazing that you can type stuff in and make computers do things. Now, I am completely outmoded now. So the stuff I wish that I grew up coding, in the cloud era. I mean, there's so much neat stuff. But I'm still fascinated by it. And I loved it. I think of it as it's almost like poetry, that you
Hmm.
can just make beautiful, elegant code. And I mean, I bring that with me to this day. Even a sales pitch is an algorithm, right? I don't know. I think of it that way. I'm trying to solve a problem at any given chance that I get. And I would have loved to say a technologist. However, I also had other, multidimensional skills that I realized that the coder types, maybe didn't have, and that if someone was going to migrate to the business side, it was probably going to be me. So I did that.
Hmm.
Went to the operator kind of seat, so COO type of stuff, finance, and I liked that too. That was fun. But ultimately, somebody had to go out and try to pitch some stuff and sell some things, and I just started doing that, and it worked, and I made people money, and people like it when you make the money. And so then I said, well, if I can make them money, I should probably make myself money, and here we are. So
Yeah, it's I I started work not as a coder but as a teacher, and I discovered I did part-time sales at night and found out I could sell. So I sort of ended up going to sales as well and was in sales for a long, long time. And
what
guess
was the
what?
first sales job? Because that is
Ah,
so
ah,
clutch. Yeah.
okay. You're going to love this.
Mhm.
My first sales job was selling subliminal suggestions tapes to stop people smoking and overeating.
Wow. Did it work?
Well, I sold quite a lot.
So
I believed
you
in
were
it.
giving overt messaging to sell
Yeah, subliminal
subconscious
suggestion tapes.
messaging. Right.
Yeah. So this is in the early late 70s, early 80s. So subliminal suggestion tapes where you just listened to it and it helped you stop smoking and also not eat too much. And they were like $50 a pop, and I got a nice cut of that. And I was making more money at night, 2 or 3 nights a week, than I was for my entire 40 hours in the classroom. And I went, okay, this is something worth doing. So I totally get that pivot into sales. But yeah, that was my first sales.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did it work? I hope so. I didn't have anyone knocking on my door asking for their money back, so that was good.
Right.
But I believed in it. I'd done a little bit
Yeah.
of reading, so so it was cool. But I really admire coders, though. I really do,
I do too.
because I am seriously crap at it. I tried to use BASIC, I think, back in 1980s,
Yep.
when that was a coding thing, and I seriously just can't get my head around it. I think in a totally different way. I need something more concrete rather than abstract. So I really admire coders. So because they write as you said, they create algorithms that makes machines dance and sing and make sense of
Right.
noise and data. You know what? I think it's fantastic. So
I mean, what's sales, right? What's a pitch? What's marketing except, essentially psychological algorithms, so
yeah,
I'm happy to have been steeped in that strange world where there are processes and it's not as, it's kind of open-ended and it's abstract and it's just the same as all the other business, so it's neat to have been cross-trained in that.
yeah, that's very cool. And we're always in a battle of the algorithms when Facebook and Google turn on their algorithms, change them every day. The whole SEO game is just one ongoing battle of the algorithms, trying to get ranked, and we rank for a lot of terms, I think we published an article the other day and we're on page 2 within 24 hours. So that's the sort of stuff I do love it, but I get my team to do that back end stuff. But my original algorithm battle was I just used blunt force trauma just published a lot of content back in 2009, 2010. And guess what? Because I created a lot of good quality content every day, we started building up our domain authority. So, but again, SEO is an algorithm battle.
And it's changed, 10 times since then.
Oh,
But I tell you what, like if you were on the forefront of that in the early days of chunking out that content, you will never give up that authority that you developed early. So, I mean, that's like buying Tesla, the day it went public. So that's tremendous. And none of us who didn't do that will ever get that back without, buying it. So, it's really, it's an asset. It's like buying real estate and any business that was built on that is really just going to reap that benefit for a long time. And, you can't replicate that now. It's a totally different world.
yeah. And when I leapt into the whole content marketing game and building the blog up from scratch without any coders, I used WordPress, which was template driven. I struggled with just using the features of WordPress, but I did it.
I still do. And it's supposed to be easy now.
Well, I don't use WordPress very often now. My whole editor and team does, and I hadn't used the back end for a while. I leapt in about 4 or 5 months ago again, and I went, "My God,
What is this?
This has changed." I said, "So
Yeah.
this is not easy anymore." So because it was unfamiliar, but so
It's like I want to change that one little thing, and I still have to go ask my partner, who is like more of a developer than designer than me, and like, how do I get to that word? Like, where is it?
yeah,
I know what I want, and I can't get there.
yeah, it's and especially if you're growing a business, you certainly usually have to be the master of everything initially until you get to a point where you can start, basically delegating.
That's a huge lesson, and one that we still try to balance, especially when you bootstrap a business, because in a sense, you do have to do everything, because if you pay somebody else to do it, then you're not going to be able to pay yourself until you just, sort of pay attention to that margin.
Yeah.
And, we started our business with $4,000, just like anybody else. And, you just kind of go like, when can I spend money and when can I not? And constantly running that again. And that opportunity cost that you need a value of your own time only becomes relevant when there's cash that you can spend on yourself or somebody else. It's like, oh, at the beginning of that, you're nobody. You got to do all the things. Who am I going to call? Like, I have no money. What am I going to trade you? equity in my nothing, so like, it doesn't work that way. And so like, I tell every founder we get in contact with, like, who's, oh, we need help with sales. I'm like, look, if we're going to do business with you, you are already doing, $300, $400, $500,000 a year of revenue. Mm-hmm. You did that. You built that. Like, that's tremendous. Like, you're already better than 98% of the businesses that ever existed. And, just stop and celebrate that. Okay, now let's talk about spending your money, but like, celebrate that first. I've blown up so many projects and businesses to get to anything that even remotely resembles success. I want people to appreciate it when they have that, when they have been a founder that actually made money. So.
Yeah. I remember I was, my first sales career, first serious sales career after I sold subliminal suggestion tapes was when the PC revolution took off, and we were selling PCs, and that was the Wild West of the PC revolution, with Steve and Bill were duking it out, and
that thing's never going to take off,
the maximum market for computers in the world is, I think it was a statement from IBM, was there'll be 300 computers will be sold globally. So
and what was the thing about the RAM? I always thought that was the best quote. You can't imagine, no one will ever need more than 320K of RAM. And now it's like, my laptop has 16 gigs of RAM. So thank God for Moore's Law. We have all done a really good business on the back of that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I am almost every week I get blown away by how easier the human interface to tech is getting, in terms of, just almost everything. Like, use a range of systems, whether it's your phone, whether it's your laptop, whether it's a software, and it's becoming more and more intuitive, and it's really almost like magic, really, in terms of what you can do.
And there's voice interfaces and all these things. I mean, I can almost reliably text with my voice now without sounding like an idiot. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. And the other thing that I'd love too is like the ability to do this in high definition video, high quality audio, record it, then we can upload it, download it, use Google Docs in the cloud to actually do the transcripts, then we can use Trello to manage it with the team. And it's a lot of moving parts, but the reality is I don't take this for granted. I don't take flying for granted. In fact, don't take it much for granted at all now, because no one can fly.
I can't go. Now we take this more.
That's right.
But I mean, you and I are literally on the other side of the planet. You are actually, sort of the opposite side of the world, and we are having a real-time discussion in high def video.
Yeah.
And I hope we could all just celebrate that for a few minutes, because 5 years ago, this would have sucked. It wouldn't have worked at all.
Exactly.
It's tremendous. I mean, if you're going to have a total wipeout pandemic, this is a good time in history to have it, technology wise.
Well, I launched the podcast in March last year.
We launched our remote selling business that people kind of, what? You can't do that, in the end of 2019. So in retrospect, that looks like a pretty good decision. But I can remember calls in November 2019 where people said, you could never sell what we do on Zoom. It requires that handshake. It requires that in person. Well, to the extent to which everything has sucked, at least that has gone in our direction. It's also still very difficult, and I don't wish for more pandemic, but if I'm going to take my tiny little positive, it was that. So.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I went to a meeting last week, just a guy that's involved in a startup company called Catapult, and caught up with Mike and his business development manager, and I went into the meeting, I parked the car, walked in, had the meeting. We didn't record it in audio or video, and it was really weird. It's sort of like, I'm not recording this. How do we actually distill the meeting? Because none of us were taking notes. Right. And I'm going, this is weird actually having.
Has anybody turned on our AI bot to record this?
My
It did
God.
not auto log in. And, now we're going to have stuff embedded in our heads if we ever, get
Yeah.
together again as humans. So,
Yep. Well, the other interesting thing I find too is I generally read a Kindle, right, ebooks and so on, and I will be swiping up and down, highlighting, sharing it, sending an email to myself with some notes, and sometimes I catch myself reading a real book because I'm reading a book on the beach, right, a novel, a holiday read over Christmas because we have summer here in Australia, and you know what? I almost start to swipe down on the printed page. I'm going, Jeff, you're losing it.
we've all become that. You ever see the video of the baby that says the iPad is broken, and it's a baby with a magazine trying to swipe the cover of a magazine and it doesn't work.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean that's so true. And I'll tell you this other thing, like this, I am a minimalist. Like I don't want stuff. I love technology. Like I mean, I would live in a box if I could, like I
yeah.
want as little as possible. But maybe it's this, sort of lack of connection or whatever's happening to us now with the whole pandemic thing. But I've started buying some books again, like physical
Hmm.
books, maybe just to shake up my brain or, I don't know. It's just like, and I'm the last person that I think I'm so done with screen time, like 12 hours a day of the Zoom stuff. Like my eyes are burning out of my head and I can't read at night because it hurts too much unless I
Yeah.
use like a regular book, like some physical object that has no light emitting from the front of it. So,
Yep, I totally get that. I was born. Well, business started in the at the dawn of social media revolution,
yeah.
2008, 2009, and I really leapt in and enjoyed it. It was the wild west of social media. No rules. The algorithms were rude and raw and or tough and I broke one of our Twitter's algorithmic tests one day by following too many people, so they shut me down. Not because I was being angry or abusive online, I was just following too many people. Um,
You ran
so
out. Yeah.
yeah, so they banned me for 6 hours, and I was devastated.
See,
And
now you have to try to do a democratic insurrection to get banned. I mean, like the bar has really been raised, especially in
yeah,
America. So
yeah. Well, I'm thinking of starting an insurrection here. Not quite sure which one to start, but it could
you
be.
always, yeah, right. There's always some insurrection. It's like some are less destructive than others, right?
Well, I think I'm maybe thinking of starting what I call the simplicity insurrection.
Mm.
I've certainly been leaning more into simplicity. Um, how much more stuff do you need? How much?
I want less stuff.
Yeah.
I want less things, and it is a happy day for me when I bring 6 bags of stuff to donate to somebody else.
Well, how much more do we need? And it's almost a disease, consumerism, and I think a lot of people are stepping back, going, "Do I really need this?" And
I just like, to me, I don't want to clean anything. So like every surface that has a thing on it, that means something I need to dust, So I'm
yeah,
pretty pragmatic about this. Like I want it to be empty. I'd be really happy with empty space as small as possible.
yeah. Well, it's interesting in terms of I heard one of the quotes about owning stuff is you don't own the stuff owns
Stuff
you.
owns you.
And it's true because you buy a boat, what do you have to do? You've got to clean it, you've got to insure it, you've got to look after it, you've got to worry about it, you've got to think whether it's going to get scratched, it's
Yeah.
going to sink. You know what? Now it's great in Australia, like all around the world, you just can join a boat subscription service. You pay so much a month,
Yeah.
you show up, they look after the rest, and you walk away at the end of the day and they clean it. And guess what? The only thing you have
Sounds
to pay
real
for,
nice.
the only thing you have to pay for is the fuel. So haven't done that yet. Luckily, was about to sign that deal before the pandemic hit. So, but now everyone's buying boats because it's like this haven away from the infected sites, right? So,
Right.
yeah,
We're all gonna be floating. It's like water world, or it's like we're all gonna be floating somewhere. But
yeah,
and the proliferation of subscription now, we actually have a client that's really big into subscription, and we're actually seeing now that there was this initial boom, like everybody signed up for everything, and now they're starting to pare back because they're like, well, I don't have cable anymore, but I have 67 different things that charge me $20 a month for some kind of video to appear on some device somewhere. It's getting a little out of control. So you're going to see this interesting thing happen where bundling starts to sort of recoagulate, and then it's ultimately like, oh, I do have a cable provider again. So this cord cutting thing is really interesting, because we're all on a cord, at all time. Maybe that we'll start doing like screen cutting, I don't know, but I think that what's old is new, in some respects.
Well, I think there's a lot of people getting back to basics. I think the pandemic made people realize what's important, and it came down to, well, actually relationships are important.
Yeah.
And people are important, and everyone's doing Zoom calls, and there were many FaceTime calls as well with people and loved ones all around the world, and across the suburbs and across interstate, and so. But yeah, I think we're in interesting times, and the reference to subscription. In other words, you don't have to buy a salesperson, put him in a seat and pay him a wage. You actually just, and you're essentially almost, this is a good segue, I think, to get into what you guys do.
You should totally subscribe to me. Everybody should subscribe to me.
So the reality is, I think what we've got now is you almost provide a subscription service for sales, because in other words, you don't have to buy one. You just rent a salesperson, outsource it. So what got you into B2B outsource sales? That's essentially what Ad10 does. Tell us how you got into it.
Having sat in the seat that, and we're super nichey, and so I guess there's the side story of, it's not for everybody. And the neat thing about like starting a business, when you finally get it, and like it took me 13 goes at this and blew a lot of money, but niche down to the point that it's uncomfortable. And the reason I say that is, like, we work with B2B services companies where the founder has grown the business into the mid 6 digits annually of sales, wants to get out of the sales seat, and wants to grow to the 7 digits. So the space between $500,000 a year and $5 million a year of B2B services. We don't often work with SaaS companies. And so like all the things I talk about are targeted just to that niche. And honestly, it's only because I did it 3 times. I was at 3 different companies where I had to execute and figure out how to do that exact thing. And I built a niche playbook. And then I said, well, obviously companies need this, so let's just run those plays, and that's it. We're like, I don't know, offensive coordinators of this thing, this really specific thing that it turns out a whole bunch of people need and nobody else is doing. Yep. And, that's how we got into it. It's like, I did this, I saw the problems with it. I wanted to do it over and over and over again and teach people how to scale it. And honestly, like as a founder, it just freaking sucks when you can't pay your payroll. You have to worry about cash. Well, why do you need to worry about cash? Like I ended up in my own journey with this just sort of overarching idea that no founder wakes up in the middle of the night staring at the ceiling in cold sweats and thinks about anything except that I need more sales. That's it. Revenue is king. Revenue cures everything. You can have a wildly inefficient disaster of a business that maybe isn't even profitable, but if you have sales, everything is going your direction. Hopefully you run a profitable operation, unless you burn venture capital for a living, and that's not the place that we live. But the reality is that like more sales is the thing. You can do whatever you want with your business after that. If you have sales, you have everything. You have the keys to the kingdom. So I just said, listen, our vision is that any founder we work with, again, in our little niche, will never have to worry about cash flow again. When you have more sales, you have optionality. You can pay yourself. You can pay other people. You can donate all the money. I don't care what you do, but revenue is the top line. They call it the top line for a reason. And that's really it. Like, can we just build the best, most amazing system for making money with high integrity? So we're not like this sort of like crazy people that are just going to sell and do dumb things. Like, high integrity revenue. Let's just do that. Let's do that for services companies in this particular evolution of life. What got you from 0 to 500? Not us. What gets you from 5 million to 50 million? Also not us. There's one little 10x little area, 500,000 to 5 million. That's us. That's why it's add 10. It's just a fun way to say 10x.
Yeah, I love it.
And that's all we do.
So you were in these businesses and helping grow sales, and you obviously observed that they had some real issues and problems. Maybe let's dive into that a little bit. So what are some of the top problems that they had in terms of their sales procedures, processes, frameworks?
Well, think you're a founder, right? And you've gotten over the go-to-market hurdle. You've gotten over the product market fit hurdle. You're probably in pretty good shape if you got to this level. You have demonstrated that you can deliver to some clients. You've got testimonials. You got a reasonably good operating sort of persona. You're probably a practitioner in most cases. You have shown that you have a thing that works. You don't know how to scale the thing. So let's think about that, right? So the problem isn't that people have done things wrong. It's that they've done things right up to a point. You will plateau in that mid 6-figure range if you're our type of business. They all do. Why? The founder's busy. The founder needs to be CEO. The founder needs to do all the things. They need to run operations. They need to take care of every client. They need to sell. They need to do finance. These are people still doing their own billing at $500,000 of revenue. What's the one thing that almost all of them don't want to do? They don't want to be in the sales seat anymore. So let's go scale the revenue function. Cool. We need somebody to scale the revenue function. I hate doing this. What do I do? The popular sort of blogosphere and all the business books, they're going to teach you one of two things. Oh, I should hire an SDR. What's an SDR? And in US, I don't know if you use those terms, but in US, it's, somebody to call a young and hungry sort of junior type of resource who is affordable, who will just get on the phone and call, who's going to send emails, hunt on LinkedIn. I want a hunter. What have you done? You just hired somebody with no experience who you don't have a playbook for at all. You're not going to train them. You're not going to take care of them because you want to go off and run your company. So you just gave sales to somebody who has no experience. They're going to fail. Doesn't work. The other one is, let's hire a VP of sales. Cool. Again, services companies, different than SaaS companies. Read other things about SaaS companies because I don't do that. So the metrics are different. But at this point, a services company does not make enough money to hire a VP of sales at about that 500,000 mark because you're only making gross margin somewhere between 25 and 50%. You can't afford the below the line cost of that VP of sales who's going to demand from you $250,000, $300,000 fully loaded. So people go, I'm hiring a VP of sales with a Rolodex or a great network. They're going to immediately pay for themselves. They don't. It's a myth. It's totally false. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, washed my car with it. You can't do it. It's not a thing. Don't try. Okay. Also, because those people don't know how to build a program and you haven't provided them with a program. They need infrastructure. They need sales ops. They need all the stuff so they can actually execute on their network. Otherwise, they're just going to sit there they can't do it. That would be me. I know. I'm that guy. I need an 80% of rest of the world of operations, support, and sales ops, rev ops, systems, all the things. That's what we provide. I get to sit in front of the nice, pretty LED lights and sell some stuff. So I know because I'm that, and it's false. Don't do it. Don't hire that person. You can have a fractional usage version of what that is. This is a better answer. We will build you a program that comes between 500,000 and 5 million of a B2B services business. You will have a full program. It will all be documented. Every tooling system, everything will work. And along the way, we'll be paying for it because we're actually there closing your revenue. At that top of the funnel, or top of that range, I don't know what's going to happen. We actually haven't hit that with clients yet. We're 2, 3, 4 million, so there's a reasonable chance that you should just tell us to help you hire your VP of sales and team and take a hike. That's okay. Because what what is going to scale you in that next 10x from 5 to 50 million, God bless. If you get there, it might not be us. We just know what we do. And that's that one little zone we work in, that 110x, add 1 0. People always kind of joke and like, why don't you add 2? The reason is that like, I don't know what to do. I left my other places at 5 million. I don't know. Maybe we can do that. Maybe it scales. Maybe we'll figure it out if we're smart. But if we got you to 5 million from 500,000, wouldn't that be the jam? That's what you want, right?
Yep.
So again, niche. That's it. We're just passionate about one tiny thing.
Yeah, I think I've been reading it recently about being the number one niche in a niche you create. In other words, you say, this is a niche I want to be number one in, and you actually can even write what that niche is. And that sounds like you've done exactly that, which is very, very cool.
It's fun. Yeah. We didn't even set out to do that. I didn't even know. I wish that I was so smart and, I mean, just like, this just made sense. And if I've learned anything, like this is for the entrepreneurs that are getting started, right? The thing you take for granted as the common sense leap is probably the thing that you should build a service company around and sell, because it's so natural to you. It just makes sense. And it turns out, like, why aren't other people doing that? If you ever have this sense, like, why doesn't everybody know this? That's the one. Like, build that. And I'm amazed. I mean, I don't know. We don't even deserve the success that we get. I'm just fascinated that why doesn't this exist? Because it's just like, I don't know. It's just a thing. It makes sense to me. So do that. If you have that thing, we'll buy it from you too, because that's what you should do. Like the thing you're passionate about and that makes sense to you, but doesn't make sense to anybody else. That's the one.
Okay. So let's leap a little bit into how you would onboard a client. So what's the process for you to engage a client? Because I'm very curious about that.
There is so much to learn. The biggest fear is, how can anybody sell a thing that I have poured my founder blood, sweat, and tears into? I know my product inside out, and you don't know my thing, or you don't know my service. And so one of the first things that we will always do is like sort of a packaging kind of workshop. Mm-hmm. So it turns out we have the data for this, that at least at the beginning, I'm not saying you can't get more complicated, but a services business really, really benefits from 3 named packages that step up in price, that have very standard offerings wrapped into them, and that kind of, offer a little bit more features. It's your standard pricing table. So services businesses have been lulled into this idea that, particularly 0 to 500, I should customize every statement of work. I do a custom thing for every client because that's how much I care. That will get you up to that certain level. Now you can't scale. You know why you can't scale? Because every statement of work you do is different. So let's standardize those things into packages. And it turns out when you package and when you name stuff, we have the actual data for this, the average contract value goes up about 30%. So we can create money by standardizing. So we make those packages, figure out which things are add-ons, figure out which things are add-ons that really you don't even want to do, because those we can charge like 10 times as much for. And because we'll put a little like syntax on top of it. So like, for example, we have a client that does like marketing videos and stuff and at scale. And the worst thing for their process, and honestly for their clients, is people who want extra revisions. Oh, we always want extra revisions, So like, well, it's like, you don't want to do that? Charge $1,000 per revision after 2. Mm-hmm. So we go like an extra tax on top for the behaviors that we don't want to do. It's the same thing as charging like $10 a pack for cigarettes. You don't want people to smoke, make it not worth their time, right? Mm-hmm. So, or buy Jeff's tapes. You can also buy Jeff's tapes. But so that's what we do first, that packaging. Then we want 20 calls, either recorded or shadowed, where I got to hear what you're doing. So we make sure all sales calls are recorded. We take all those, we write down every objection and every question. We categorize them. We run them through sort of a process algorithm, if you will, mostly human. There's no AI here. We kind of go, what are the most important things that people want to know? What's the answer to those questions? So we create a knowledge base. And the knowledge base then can drive your marketing, your pre-call sequencing. How do I educate people when they get into calls? And we turn that into a evolving process of continual learning. So now we have sales informed marketing. We're not just marketing to everybody. We're marketing to the right people. They get down the funnel and you drive up your close rate. So now we start to build that flywheel of revenue. And so there's a very distinct process that we go through every single time. We don't need to know all your features. Another thing that's for our niche, there's only two kinds of value props in a service business. Like you either, and maybe this is for every B2B business, I'm not sure, but software too, but it's either I make people money, I make you more revenue, or I reduce your costs, which is effectively I make you more profit, but it's a roundabout way to get there. So if I make you more money, that thing is every single time 10 times easier to sell than something that cuts your costs to make you more profit, because I'm 2 hops from money that's in your pocket. So anytime I can think about it, how to position, and we have a marketing team to do this, but let's position your thing in a way that it makes somebody else more money. If it does, cool, we can really take care of that. If it doesn't, it's going to be a harder sell. We're going to need more leads. Everybody talks about how we can do better, faster, more, save you time, save you money, save you effort, save you. Honestly, I'm telling you, people want more money. They want more sales. And so if we could position what you do as a way to get somebody more money, we're going to sell a lot more of it. So those are the 3 main things. And we run those processes on repeat. We just get better and better and better about shortening that life cycle of the sale, try to get it down to a 1-call close, make sure everything we do is fast, and it kind of comes out in the wash.
Yeah. Excuse me. So this raises another question in terms of a lot of selling now is done via email, not just a sales call. And that requires technology as well. And you mentioned before before we hit the record button here, we were talking about that you're using systems and you're using some technology. Tell us about what sort of technologies you use to, I suppose, automate and also control the processes and scale.
Yeah, we have found that the best tool in the CRM sort of sales automation space at our level is HubSpot. It's expensive. People kind of blanch at paying it. It's not the cheapest thing. We don't love telling you to spend a bunch of money on a tool, but it really is the best one. And they deserve to get paid just like anybody else. So we have a relationship there that we would implement that. There's a standard tool chain that seems to be the most effective for the companies we work with: Slack, G Suite, HubSpot. We want to implement some kind of e-signature solution. Typically that's going to be HelloSign or PandaDoc. And we also want to have, what was the last one there? So lost my train of thought. Slack, G Suite, HubSpot, e-signature, documentation, knowledge management. So we tend to like to keep all our documentation in Atlassian Confluence. It's a really good knowledge management tool. So those are the sort of collection of things that need to run your back-end operations. And you're going to find that your stuff is going to pass all through that. That stack has been, super effective. There's always going to be other stuff that you need to do, project management systems, maybe Asana, things of that nature, but it's all operations stuff. I mean, ultimately, like the sales stuff, it's easy. Like schedule on my calendar using HubSpot, and I'll show up on Zoom and record it. I'll upload the recording. Our team will get after it. They'll pull out all the objections, all the questions, all the things I promise, what's next. And our plan is like, hey, let's keep salespeople like me on these calls as much as possible and make sure all the other things are happening. The biggest problem I see companies do is they don't support sales ops. So the people who are doing, like, I belong on these calls, I should be talking to customers, making relationships, making deals. Everything else should be done by administratively awesome people who are actually organized, who actually follow their task, who make documents, who are excellent at producing and getting stuff out and writing the emails and doing the automated scripting. And that's just not me, like, so that's where we say 80% of this stuff is operations. It just hides behind the curtain while we get to do this thing. So highest leverage on time is people like me, closers, being on calls, which means do everything else for them so that they can be on calls as much as possible. So if we can get 20 really excellent video calls out of a rep every week, we're going to crush it on the amount of money that we can make because somebody else is doing all the ops and administrative work with the tooling to make everybody's time more effective. The reality is that the tooling lives on the ops side. The rest of it is somebody like me who just has to shave their head or look pretty and get on Zoom and do the thing and talk to people.
Yep. So really, one of the most important things you're saying here is you need to create a machine.
It's absolutely a machine. We call it a revenue machine. That's totally right. Yep.
Yep. And that begs the next question. I've had a lot of conversations over the last 12 months, and especially the last few months, about remote work and remote businesses. And I've come up with and met some amazing examples of those, such as GitLab and Buffer. And some of these companies have been designed from day one to actually have no offices. And this is where systems become even more important, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Learning how to operate in that environment. We did this from day one. So I feel really bad for customers or companies that had to figure this out, and we can no longer be in the same room and take for granted all those things. So my business partner, we have worked together in some form or fashion since 2002. We have only been in the same room 5 times. Wow. Ever. So this is just what we do. This is the way we do it. We have always thought about like maximum documentation, maximum automation, APIs, Zaps, 14 different SaaS things, and they all work together and do stuff. And man, if you had to figure that out on the go right now, it must have been a complete beatdown on productivity. So I will not pretend to be an expert in that. We just do it. I don't know that I could advise anybody. I would probably walk into a company and be like, oh, dear God, that's what you do. This is terrible. Like, don't do that anymore. But you do have to train and be steeped in this stuff.
Yeah.
So I still meet people all the time that can't use Google Docs, and just like, geez, like, yeah, you can do that other solution. But here, and here are the things you're going to run into. And I mean, still, like, it's 2021 and we're emailing attachments. Are you kidding me? Like, don't do that anymore. Like, take the time to learn and train. Shut your company down for a week and I'll give you 25 videos to watch. For God's sake, like, you have got to get around this, because you're never going to be in the same space as your customer and your workers, like, ever again.
Yeah, it's really quite a interesting area, because we're dealing with untraining people.
Yeah.
But you've got to untrain them so you can train them. And look, I even sit in that gap. I remember my team despaired of me when we started using Trello, which is a collaborative tool that is
Kanban board. Yeah.
Atlassian bought them, and I think 2016, and I can safely say a year later that it's changed the business and changed my life. And also improved the delivery of the services for our customers. And then Google Docs, I sort of despaired of that a little bit. My team is very patient with me. Look, I'm a little older than my team, I could be known as a dinosaur occasionally, but I fake it till you make it, sort of thing. Okay, so, well, I've been.
You got a great voice, though. I mean, you're rocking it out. So.
But okay, so this is an area that is of personal interest to me and the team as well, and this is what GitLab does. It's GitLab, I think, is they've got 8,500 pages of documented open source processes.
Yep.
In other words, they go, this is our process.
This is what we do.
This is what we do. And it's available to everyone. So that means their team, when they join, they go, how do you do it? Going, there it is.
Yeah,
So,
and that exact thing you said is like literally, if I could like, so I did knowledge management implementations when it wasn't a thing. And so being again from the technology operating side, this is knowledge management. Okay. Like do not answer a question in chat, email ever without sending a link to the answer. If you can do that, you have now created that GitLab experience. So we do not answer questions unless it's in a document. If the document doesn't exist, we create the document in the proper place. We're like librarians. That's all we do. If I see anyone, client, team, otherwise, answer a question in detail in Slack, I go, nope, put that in Confluence. That's our tool. It can be any tool you want. You just need one that has like nice hyperlinks and sort of control. There's Notion, there's Confluence, like Guru, there's different ones, but that's the thing. You may only answer a question with a link. And if you ask a question having not searched for that link, we're going to start to ding on you there too. So that's it. But that's literally all it takes. And I've trained salespeople to do this, operators, technologists, like everybody's resistant to this. And it comes from this idea that I should ask somebody an email, and then I should, wait for them to send me the answer. And then, the 16 different here's the new process, everybody. And it's a big reply all. You just flushed your business like down the toilet. Don't do that. Like if your processes are getting lost at the bottom of a bunch of different inboxes, that's stupid. So just stop. Like that doesn't scale. You're losing money, you're losing leverage, you're losing knowledge. And when that person quits, you will not have that knowledge anymore because nobody's even going to remember to search their inbox. So this is the same discipline that applies to before you ask something, Google it. We're just going to build our internal knowledge base around that or public. So in fact, our Ad10 stuff, every single thing we develop, for a client, we take off, we depersonalize, sort of anonymize that deliverable, but then we publish it on our knowledge base and it's all public. You can have anything we ever thought of, and it's all on our expert community online. We want to help people, do stuff themselves. Most people don't want to do it themselves. So, they're going to pay us to do it for them. So.
Yeah, well, you guys are experts. You can do it quickly, so that's what they're hiring you for. What you've just described, and I hadn't heard of it, but it's sort of its head's risen in the middle of what's happened the last 12 months, is asynchronous versus synchronous communication. Mm-hmm. In other words, we are so used to synchronous communication, we had to turn up in the same room, go to a board meeting, get on a Zoom call. Mm-hmm. Basically, what you've just described is asynchronous communication, which is you can view at any time. You can see the process with a link. So it's really fascinating to see that discussion. I've heard it mentioned, several times now in conversations I've had with other guests. And it's just like it just described. It's incredibly much more efficient. It can scale.
It is, yeah. And I highly recommend people. And we had a client that taught us this a little bit more. I mean, we're adamant about written documentation. So we've been shown more and more people in different time zones with video. So they'll use Loom, Vidyard, or we use Cloud App. Great tool. I actually like it better than the other ones, and nobody knows about that one. So check out Cloud App. Fantastic tools. And like you just every time I need to tell everybody something, I make a video, I do a screen share, I do a walkthrough, and I say, here's the thing we need. And I post the video in Slack, and it's good to go. Watch it at your leisure. I don't need to think about this anymore. And we could do the same thing with Asana tasks or with Trello board. So let's make a Trello card, kick off that process with a video, and it's incredible. I mean, so this would be great for you if you have people, in the US or like around the clock. Like you don't have to do real time anymore. I will say that there's always going to be a delay, so if you can't figure out, like if emergent issues are a thing for your business, then yeah, you should all at least work on the same time zone, so there's that. But if it's important but not urgent, make a video, post it. Like delegate, you can do that. And It's incredible. It's so valuable.
I think it's freed up a lot of CEOs who want to get their message out to their teams going, okay, I recorded this, go and watch it in your own time.
And you don't lose that personal connection, or at
No.
least it's a little bit better. I mean, let's
Yeah.
face it, it's not the same as like, smack them back and, let's all have a beer together. Like, I miss some of that. There's no doubt. Look, there's personal stuff missing, but
Oh,
can
we
you
still,
get 80% of the way there?
yep.
Like, absolutely. Like, I get to experience Jeff on video, and like, I can hear your voice. I can see your intonations. I've taught myself to talk with my hands in the frame and to lean in and have this like active listening presentation thing. So I watch myself on video a lot. And I mean, by the end of one of these things, I'm just like, I'm sweating, my back hurts, cause I'm like in presentation mode, but I had to reteach myself how to, like, I would have been the one who was walking around the room and presenting to the boardroom. And so now I exist in this tiny little box, but it's okay. It's just like active listening by video is not looking at myself in the video. It's looking at the camera.
Exactly.
Which means I can't actually see you. So now I line yours up as close as I can to the camera lens. So it looks like I'm looking at you, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole thing is just weird now, but there's a lot of skill to it, like practice. It's the way that people used to tell you to pitch in the mirror. Well, now pitch into the damn webcam and then watch your video.
Yeah. It's really one of the things I love doing, and I used to. You talk about running workshops for clients, for example. Like it sounds like you're running workshops, a discovery session to try and discover what are the real requirements and how does it run at a high level. And I used to, and I still love it today, is a whiteboard session. Is stand up, let's map it out, let's see it visually in front of us. For me, that is still very important, and I'm just. Like we all are, we're learning to deal with a more virtual medium now. And I love the fact you're going, oh, well, my hands are, oh, no one can see my hands there, they can see them there.
Which ones are you using? How have you replaced whiteboard? Because I was also a whiteboard aficionado.
Well, I haven't, and I feel frustrated. So maybe I need to work on a whiteboard session where I just don't know. Because if I stood
I've heard
back,
good things about Miro. Miro is supposed to be good. I happen to have started to use Lucid Spark, and I really like it.
Lucid Spark, okay, yep.
Yeah. It's sort of it's an unlimited zoom in and out, sort of like Z-axis, kind of like Prezi, but you can drag and drop like sticky notes, and you can draw arrows and all kinds of stuff. So it's like an unlimited canvas flowchart type of vibe.
Okay.
It's the closest one I've found to like actually being enjoyable, but I sure as hell miss holding a pen. So I've tried it on my touchscreen laptop with a pen, and
is that Miro?
Miro is good. Same type of deal, and then Lucid Spark is
Lucid
another
Spark's
one.
your preferred, is it, at this stage?
Because I'm already a Lucid Chart customer, so I kept it all in my same ecosystem. So wise of them to release that product, because I probably would have gone somewhere else, but ultimately you have death by SaaS subscription, and you kind of look at your credit card and you're like, for God's sake, like I pay $10 a month to everybody in the world, So.
Well, sometimes this is really interesting about the subscription thing, right? So you subscribe to all these products, and some of them you don't end up using, or they become redundant a year later, and then you go, this is where documentation may be quite important, is that what am I subscribed to?
Oh my God! Like audit your SaaS bill, for God's sake.
I know, and but it can get convoluted. But so maybe there's a tool to be done. Is it called I'm sure there's one out there already, which is a SaaS bill control system to stop you spending more. I remember my credit card that I used for the business actually expired recently, about a year ago.
Oh, that's the worst when you got to change them all.
No, it was really good because it happened rolling, and I carved about $3,000 a month out of my expenses that I didn't need.
Yeah.
So
I could tell people, like, have a billing administrator of some sort that goes through, and it's not only auditing the tool. So should I or should I not use this thing? It's who have I allocated a seat to on this thing?
That's right.
Because like, our even our Confluence bill, and we would love Confluence. We use it to death, but I'm like, what the hell are we doing, at $300 a month? And I start going through, I'm like, these 10 people aren't even here anymore. Like they're not our clients anymore. Like take this out. But you got to do it. A dial pad, same thing, $20 a seat. Love the tool. Fantastic tool. But man, you gotta be careful with how you're allocating your resources, and you're not an enterprise, which would have that centralized deployment.
That's
So
right.
yeah, Google Suite's another one. Oh my gosh, man, you can eat up your stuff on there like nobody's business.
That's right. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm curious about, and maybe others too, is, yeah, and I think you might have mentioned the tool already, is documenting your processes on the fly. In other words, trying to do it in retrospect is difficult, and this is a project we're diving into more this year, is documenting as we go and then recording it and making it available to everyone. What's the tools you use for that, or tool you use for documenting?
Yeah, documentation, we use Confluence. So
Right.
it's an Atlassian tool similar to Trello. In fact, if you already have your Atlassian account centralized, you may really like Confluence. So
Okay.
it's a really nice tool set to develop that. It gives you a tree of your documents and all kinds of ways to cross-reference and different macros to pull them together.
Hmm.
It's a lot more effective. I see a lot. We walk into so many companies that are documenting their whole world in a Google Docs, and the problem with that is they aren't related to each other. So you
Yeah.
have no sense of like taxonomy. Like they don't fall into like a nice tree. There's no standard to it. And then everybody's kind of going, where's that thing where we documented X, Y, or Z? And you got to search for, oh, that's not shared with me. So like
Mm.
there's a real good reason for an intranet solution that behaves more in that fashion. For us, Confluence is great. So if you're an Atlassian customer, I'm not getting paid for this, sign up for Confluence. I think it's a really great tool. So.
Thanks for that. I think we might have a little solution what we're trying to do. We're actually going to do it in Google Docs, but
Yeah, don't do that.
you've just, well, and I totally agree with you. It's like Google Docs,
Yeah.
okay, so, but I put stuff on Google Docs, create folders, and I'm going, where did I put that document?
Mhm.
Um,
And the search is great. You can generally find it again.
yeah, I know.
But unless you pay for the more advanced Google Docs with the shared drives, and again, it's like going to double or triple the cost per seat. It's going to be a huge pain in the ass because everybody has their different folder
Mm,
structures, and
mm,
it's better to have a centralized documentation system. I'm honestly shocked that Google doesn't have this. You can kind of like approximate it with Google Sites, but even that's pretty janky.
mm.
So I love Confluence. Notion is another one you can look at. I personally don't care for that one as much as Confluence. So,
All right, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the reasons I started this podcast was to meet with some of the smartest minds in all sorts of niches all around the world. And I have conversations every week with smartest tools in the shed. Just as you, I'm not calling you a tool, by the way, but
You would be accurate. You would be, and not the first person. So,
but for me, it's like I told it before when we were having a chat before we hit record, and was. I get to have entrepreneur lesson 101, 102, 103 on all sorts of different topics, and I love it. So,
yeah.
and I told you too. I sit down and I actually do the transcript editing myself, which sounds a bit stupid, but I'm doing it for a reason. I'm doing it because I want to learn.
You would definitely have better retention. I know I would do the same thing. I used to type all my college class notes. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this method in the madness. Will I do it forever? No. But at the moment,
Do you
I think
use one of those AI things to start you off and then edit it, or do you literally type every word?
no. What happens is I use rev.com to do my transcripts, which is the more
Okay.
premium version, and it's damn good. Like it seriously comes back really, really accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And I then I then copy and paste that into Google Docs, which then pulls up all the wrong grammar and spelling as well. So you just go through it and you're going, in fact, most of it's already done. So
But you do read it all again, which
I do.
is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, might be a dumb thing to do, but for me, I think it's a clever thing to do because the retention's great. I get to really distill, the noise and data into all the important points that matter that goes into our podcast notes, and it's it's what's good for me at the moment. But documenting certainly is a very important thing, and building the machine, and you build the sales machine for people, which is fabulous. So there's one thing I was going to ask about that sales machine. So you're trying to get people on video calls now instead of booking meetings, of course. And we're finding that we're all starting to get much more used to a sales call via video or a Zoom now.
Yeah.
So how do you handle if you're not doing a lot of sales calls but you're selling via email? Because sometimes we sell via email, sometimes we sell via most of the time a bigger deal. I'm on a Zoom call, and it's a bit random, it's a bit loose, but I've got the things I want to cover. But again, that Zoom call is very much about building a relationship as well. Right. So how do you deal with, I suppose, sales funnels in your space that where sometimes a deal is done via an email?
Well, you kind of answered the question there, because like our clients, and again, like this is just our choice, our niching down, we have high ticket clients. So it's vastly unlikely that someone is going to sign a $15,000, $20,000, $50,000 contract just because of emailing back and forth. It has happened. And so we have this sort of escape hatch in the funnel. Like, look, if you don't want to do a call, answer these questions for you. We'll send you a quote.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes, but the primary answer is that virtually nobody will do these high ticket sales without getting on a call and checking your just validity of what you're doing. So if you're a services business selling $1,000 a year thing, it would be stupid for you to pay us and try to execute the system that we're putting together. You need to figure out how to do self-serve and collect some credit cards, if you're in that kind of situation. So.
I did love the mention you made before about packaging up your services and giving them a name. I think that's an excellent idea. So what are some of a couple of really great examples and success stories that you've had with B2B services businesses in terms of helping them really grow? I'd love to hear a couple of those stories.
Sure. Yeah. Very proud of. So the weird thing is we do what we call true white label. So a lot of our clients don't want anybody to know that they outsource their sales. So I'll tell you the story. I can't throw the name out there, but the original client that took a chance on us is probably the premier agency in the world for explainer videos, animated explainer videos. And we started with them, a year and a half ago. And, just so proud of those guys. They've grown their business tremendously. And they did achieve the sort of ad 1.0. We just broke a major milestone from exactly what we hoped would happen. So if you're in the market for explainer videos, you can look me up on LinkedIn and I'll tell you who it is. So, but we don't like to out the clients because they do pay for white label services. Another one I think is fantastic is a content business that we work closely with. Actually, this is not necessarily a white label thing. So that's Content Allies. I personally run the sales for that one. And we have developed a system where we do revenue focused B2B podcasts. So essentially like what you and I are doing right now, but we will create and run and do everything for those. And the podcast, it's for whale hunting for businesses. So if you're a B2B company executive, you have the chops to talk, you want to do sales calls with other executives that you can sell to. What's the best call you ever did in your life? You and I have been talking for like an hour right now. We're friendly. Like, imagine if I was your prospect. Like at the end of this, do you think I would trust you? Do you think you could probably pitch me some stuff and I wouldn't even be offended? Absolutely. Like it's totally the greatest thing ever. People think podcast is all about content. We think podcast is about sales. Best call you ever had with the people that you wouldn't even take the call with you if you asked and you pitched them something, offer to interview them. Watch what happens. Now, podcasting is a lot of work. Cool. It's not when we do it, all of it. So you better be doing those sales calls. We'll show you how, we'll book them for you. We'll do all the work. So I am proud of the innovation of that. Like the fun things are the ones where people tell you that's friggin' smart. And I never thought of that before. So that's a fun one. And we have gone, not 10X yet on that one, but it's grown, really kind of crazy fast. So check out Content Allies. You'd actually get to talk to me if you booked a call. So.
Well, I think a lot of businesses haven't worked out that a podcast can be a powerful sales tool as well as a relationship builder. And guess what happens out of relationships?
Money
and opportunities.
Yeah. Referrals, partners, direct sales.
Yep.
When I did this, I interviewed CTOs. We did over $500,000 of sales to guests. No pipeline, no muss, no fuss. Put you in touch with the person right after the call. Single call close. I mean, come on, like you can't beat that. Like, so yeah, if you're not executing on podcast strategy, or if you don't understand it, or you think it's just content marketing and long tail, at least check out the stuff that we have out there, because I will change your mind. And if you think you can DIY, awesome, go ahead and do it. You can't do it as cheap, and you should value your time more than that. But it's a fantastic strategy. I'm so passionate about it because it works so well.
Yeah, the podcast for me has been, it also, podcasts add a level of credibility and social proof that goes way beyond an article. And the fact is...
Are you familiar with Influence, Robert Cialdini, sort of like big time book, Influence, the persuasion and all that stuff? Yeah.
Yep.
So there's 6 points in there that are like the 6 major influential persuasion type of things. And, I was able to go through all of them and go, watch this. This strategy that we're talking about checks off authority and liking and social proof and whatever all the 6 are. That's why this works, because podcasting in general, those relationships check off all those things. Who's the most important person in the room? The best person you remember at a networking event? It's the one who asks you questions all night. I get to stroke my own ego and talk about myself. Fantastic. Guess what? If you're a podcast host, I love you because you just asked me a bunch of questions about me.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's it. Like, where does sales come from? You know what else? I'm going to tell you the truth on a podcast. You asked me about the future. You asked me about my business. Do you think that's going to go a lot better than if you're on a stupid sales call and you kind of go, so tell me your pain points, Jeff.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night? It's a bunch of crap. But on podcasts, you'll get the truth.
Yeah, well, I actually asked you how many children you had, and we had that conversation before we went on.
Right, where are you from? How many kids? Yeah. Like, it's just like it's literally the best sales call you ever did, and it doesn't even feel like it.
Exactly, and that's what it should. That's a good sales call. Always should be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's the podcasting thing for me is just, it really doesn't even feel like, well, it's not work. It's really I did it for relationship building and also a bunch of other things, and it's nearly 1 year in, but I'm still learning the craft, and obviously I've got to work out keeping my hands between and rather than down here. People
right. It's like Madonna, remember, like in the 90s,
Yeah, that's right. That's working it out. So thanks for sharing those couple of different examples of clients. So maybe just to wrap things up, I'm mindful of your time, and you've got to going to do a marathon or something. Or
I gotta cook dinner for kids. That's right. So you're on coffee and I'm on I'm dinner time. So
okay. So what's a couple of important things that you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap this up, Ledge?
If you are a B2B founder and you're in that, I grew my sales into the 6-figure kind of range. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure. I want to scale my business. Just like if you want to hang out with peers, we have this thing called Expert Community. It's on our site, add10.co, ADD numeral 1 ZERO. Check that out. You can join there. Like scroll down to the bottom, like look at the free stuff. We'll give you access to our free knowledge base, like anything you could ever want. You don't have to pay us. Just come hang out. Every other Tuesday, we have a B2B founder support group on Zoom. It's just like super fun. We transcribe everything. It's like live podcast, hang out, get advice, whatever you want. So please come join that. I'm on LinkedIn, David Ledgerwood. You can find me. chat me up. I check all my messages on there. Yeah, we just like to help founders, so always happy to do a call, get some advice, share some stories, and yeah, that's all. It's just fun. You also check out our podcast that I co-host a podcast, leadersofb2b.com.
Okay.
And those are a lot of fun to learn from also.
Cool. So how can people contact Ledge?
LinkedIn is great. You could easily find me there. I do check all those things. My direct email, ledge@add10.co. That's the way to get it.
Great. I'm sure a few people are going to hit you up. And thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. I learned a lot. And good. Have fun tonight feeding the kids. I hope they like what you cook. I don't cook very well, but I'm becoming an assembler of food.
I did buy freezer pizza for tonight. We
right,
knew
okay.
This was going to be a late one. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the truth. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to hold you up from eating athletes' food called pizza. So have a great evening. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, Ledge. It's been an absolute pleasure.
So fun. It was really great to be here, Jeff. Thank you very much.